I mean, either they're trying to stop people from doing it or they're trying to get their hands in the pockets. Or
This is the death of short-term property flipping.
we need to talk about that today. The money's due, right? Like these projects are starting to complete. There's many people that are completely underwater from what they paid at
You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
So many people get it completely wrong with their BC assessment values that they're completely upside down. You know, the amount of phone calls we get is absolutely unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
We need to talk about that today. You've got something that you want to talk about today that has probably had quite an impact on the BC real estate market, and it's going to have a pretty big impact, I think, moving forward. So we're going to make sure everyone gets exactly what they need to know about that as well. But we're also going to talk about the stats because we got a very interesting stats package here today about the real estate going on in our communities, Lower Mainland, Fraser Valley, because we've got the whole entirety of 2024 that we're going to share with everybody. Should we get into it?
That's it.
All right, I think we should. So let's talk about what's going on in BC real estate. What are you bringing to the good people today?
I am bringing the, we'll call it the BC home flipper tax, effective January 1st.
Yes, and I think that is going to have a monstrous impact on just how people see real estate in British Columbia. You know, everybody, not everybody, so many people. Cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers.
I've even forgot what we're drinking. What are we drinking? I've got Hoyne. You've got Hoyne. I've got the Down Easy.
That's it. Yeah, the golden lager.
I secretly like mine better. I knew that.
He's biased. It's okay.
Quite as much. So I think yours is going to have pretty big impacts across BC because I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to the idea that real estate cannot fail as an investment, you are guaranteed to make money with real estate when you buy it. I feel like that's just something that is like ingrained into our culture in British Columbia, and the government's recognize this. So tell everybody what's going on. What are they trying to fix? What is the problem they're trying to fix right now?
This is the death of short-term property flipping.
Right.
This is the death. So effectively what they are is January 1st, they're pretty much targeting all the short-term property flippers. So anything less than 730 days, I was gonna say 25, but that's not 2 full years. So what they're trying to do is anything that is sold within 365 days or 1 year, it's 20% tax on the profit.
Right.
And then just like our property transfer tax, there's a sliding scale between 1 year and 2 years, 730 days. And then anything after 730 days or 2 years, that is not, that tax will not be applicable on that profit.
Right. So the government is trying to basically stop people from flipping properties. And that's kind of back to my point. Like, you know, the amount of phone calls I've had over my career where someone said, I can put down zero money or very little money and I can turn this around and turn it into a huge profit later on is incredible. And I'm just, you know, sounding the alarm, sirens going off. Like, no. That's not how it works. You know, you said the tax is applicable when they make money. Key part of that, when you make money.
Exactly.
Right? We know many people, and none of them were people that we put in, but we know many people who came to us after the fact that bought properties as pre-sales or properties that they intended to flip back in the, you know, the COVID days when the market was skyrocketing, thinking they were going to make a lot of money. Well, they might have bought them at the peak. What happened at the peak?
Yeah. Bought it at the absolute top. And then as we've said in multiple videos over the last 2 years, it's been a very steady decline for our market.
Yeah.
So if you think we're up at the 2021 prices, you're sadly mistaken, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. So these people, you know, the money's due, right? Like these projects are starting to complete. There's many people that are completely underwater from what they paid at the peak of 2022 versus what is due and payable today on the property. In fact, even these people that went to go buy these things, they're now getting appraisals on them. And they bought them for X amount of money and now they're worth X minus $50,000. They can't even get funding on them.
Exactly.
And making it even worse, when they did this, they can't get funding on them because the rates were, you know, a quarter or half of what they are today. You know, we're lucky we've had some rate decreases. So anyways, I mean, that's all on the side. You know, that's a whole other video for buying pre-sale with the intention of making money. But now the government is really trying to, I mean, either they're trying to stop people from doing it or they're trying to get their hands in the pockets or they're trying to do both.
Exactly.
Right? They want the tax revenue.
I'm going to say both.
Yeah, I'm going to say both too. Okay, so what? So basically, over the first year, it's a 20% tax.
Correct. Yeah,
On the
20%
profits.
tax on the profits, and then it says here that tax is prorated on a declining scale. So that pretty much means it's a sliding scale going down from, and then once that hits 2 years, then the tax will not be applicable on the profit.
Right, and I know there's some exemptions behind that as well.
There is, yeah. I was just going to dive in here. So this is off the BC government website. We will link it down below in the description. But a few things here are change in employment. So if a seller must relocate for work-related reasons, they may qualify for an exemption. If there's any significant life events, such as a divorce, separation, death of a property owner, that may exempt the seller. Disability or health issues also. So if the property owner or a close family member develops a disability or encounters health challenges, that may also be exempt too. But a really big thing to know is we are not tax lawyers. So please consult the official website or a tax professional to get a complete list and see if it applies to you.
Yeah, good point. And this is not also to confuse with the new federal flipping tax. So it's somewhat new. It's not new as of this year, but that's a totally different tax. Works totally different, but you're basically paying, if you want to flip property, you're basically, potentially paying two taxes. So,
100%.
The profitability alone it's probably eroded quite a bit. I love that move by the BC government. That is one that I really did quite like because that opens up those properties from people simply trying to, to make money off them to people who actually want to live in them, ideally anyways. Right?
100%.
So I was quite excited about that.
Totally.
What I wanted to bring to the table today was all about the BC assessments. I was going to say they're hitting people's mailboxes by the time we're filming this. That's not quite true because I haven't got mine
This is
yet.
backlogged a bit.
Yeah, they're a little backlogged, but it's incredible the stories I've been getting about the different valuations that people are getting. I had one lady reach out to me relatively recently, and her entire neighborhood was down 18% year over year.
That's crazy. I can speak personally that mine was about 8% less this year over last year as well. So,
and in fact, mine went up. Mine went up, and what rhyme or reason was that for?
Exactly.
So I know the city of Surrey, as an example, was down about 3% as a whole, but it just brought me back to the realization that I feel that so many people don't understand what a tax assessment really is. I feel that there's this myth out there that it has an impact on your actual market value of your home
in the current day today.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Market value of a home is even interesting terminology because market value is what it's worth if it was sold, right?
It's not the actives.
So many people are worrying about these numbers and they're not even planning on selling or worrying about getting their home on the market. But I heard a really great thing that, using your assessed value to determine your market price is like using, you heard me say this, is like, it's like using the weather forecast in the summer to plan a ski trip in the winter.
That's right.
It's totally irrelevant, right?
Exactly.
It's done by the assessment authority in July of last year. So it's already dated the day after they do it because the market moves on, things change.
Exactly.
But it comes out about, 6 months later, right? So this point in time, these assessments are taken, the market does whatever it's going to do. These come out, people get them, and they have this intention or this implied that, or it's implied rather that, this actually has a reference on what their market value is. So market value is only if you're actually selling. But, I think a lot of people do themselves justice to inquire and just even do some homework on what kind of value they're getting because you don't want to overpay. Like for the lady that went down 18%, she's got no intention of selling. My advice to her was, unless you're really worried about it and you're planning on selling in the next few years, I wouldn't do a thing. Because if the city of Surrey went down 3% and she went down 18%, her actual share of the taxable pie got smaller.
Exactly.
Right? I guess my share of the taxable pie went up, right? So so maybe I should fight my own taxes.
So thank you to her for you paying
thank
it.
you to her for saying something. But that just goes to show, and you can find out what all the municipalities did individually. Some went up, some went down. But I think the story of the year for 2024 was relatively flat. And of course, this is July 2023. to July 2024. So it was relatively flat, and there's a lot of story in between there. A lot of stuff happened with the market, but that's really kind of the gist of it. It didn't really, do a whole lot. So, but if anybody's got questions about their tax assessment, we're doing reviews of them for our clients and their friends and family, or anybody that's watching this video. We're certainly happy to do that for them. So you can send that to us, because you do have until the end of the month, obviously, to fight them, or not fight them, maybe is the right word, but challenge
Verify them. Yeah.
Verify them, whatever that might be. So you do have the end of the month, and there's actually a video on our YouTube channel all about it, and it's also got the 3 biggest misconceptions that people have about tax assessments, because I consistently year over year, I feel people really don't understand them and how they work. So anyways, that's on the YouTube channel. Perfect. So anyways, let's get into the stats. People love hearing what's going on, and these stats, when we're doing year over year, now we're finally talking about January to December. We're talking about the full calendar year of 2024.
That's
and
right.
we can see what happened. I know what happened, but tell these good people what happened.
No worries, man. Well, it looks like in apartments in the Lower Mainland, we have minus 2.0% over 3 months, and in the Lower Mainland, minus 1.6%. We have townhomes in Fraser Valley, minus 0.8%. In the Lower Mainland, 0.7% positive. And for detached, we have in the Fraser Valley, minus 1.4%. And in the Lower Mainland, minus 1.2%.
So they kind of were all over the place, but generally they're all hugging pretty similar to where they were year over year. Yeah. Okay. Well, so what were they doing year over year?
So year over year for apartments in the Fraser Valley, we were minus 0.2%, and in the Lower Mainland, flat at 0%. Townhomes in the Lower Mainland, we were 2.4% positive, and in the Fraser Valley, we were 0.3%. So a big boost in the Lower Mainland, a little bit less in the Fraser Valley, and detached homes in the Lower Mainland was up 2.2%, but in the Fraser Valley, 0.9%, so not even 1%.
No, but they did grow in value.
They did.
So, all those people, we did some interesting math on one of our videos previously, but, even for the properties that did lose a slight bit of value, when you start accounting for things like, well, what did those people pay in terms of paying rent out? Did they add any equity to their property by paying off a mortgage, that sort of thing? Those are pretty minimal numbers for a lot of people that thought the market was going to absolutely take a dive. Obviously it didn't. And what's always interesting, I mean, the number one call that we're getting right now is what's tomorrow going to look like, right? Yeah. Like what's 2025 going to look like? Anecdotally, what I can say is the phone is definitely ringing with a lot of people making plans. Yep. Some of those plans are already starting to come up, and we're seeing that with a lot of people starting to list their properties and whatnot. And I think it'll be interesting to see where we are towards the end of January for those that come up. But I think it's going to be a pretty quick start to this year. And I think there's a lot of people who are looking to transact. There's a lot of stuff in the news. There's a lot going on. We got a new president of the United States of America coming. On the, what is it, the 17th?
Yeah, I believe so. 17th or 20th. That's one.
Yeah, something like that.
Someone will correct us in the comments.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff being said from that gentleman's mouth there. So actually, we did a video on that. If you want to watch a fun one, check that out on the YouTube channel as well. But we got that going on. There is a ton of mortgage renewals coming up in 2025. So that is a little bit of the fly in the ointment in the story of 2025 as well for all these potential property listings that are going to be coming available. Yep. And of course, if the United States, what happens economically with them, or what happens with their interest rates, we're going to have to pay attention to that as Canadians, right? As Canadians. So we're going to have to pay attention to that as well, because we sometimes have to work in lockstep with what's going on down there, right? And if things like tariffs and whatnot start coming across the border, well, that might push us to have to maintain rates, and we might even have to raise rates. We never know, right? Exactly. So nobody knows what's going to happen. We can only take guesses, of course, but I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think it's going to be a better year. And actually, the one thing I didn't mention is actually we're going to have a federal election this year too.
Exactly. And sneak peek, we got a video coming up for that.
We do, yeah. So check that out. It's all about, does the Prime Minister control housing prices? So I think people will like that one and be interested in checking that one out. And that one I'm sure is going to be really interesting in the comments section.
Yeah, run and grab your popcorn for that one.
Yeah. People, I actually said in the video, let's not make this political. Like, everyone's got their team or whatever. So let's keep it civil. But I think that'll be an interesting one. But nonetheless, we got a federal election coming up later this year. And there's going to be a lot of talk about housing housing, the Conservative Party, they're going to have to start kind of being a little more forthcoming with plans economically and stuff like that, what they want to do instead of just, shooting arrows from the back, which is fine. That's the position they've got right now. But they're going to have to start kind of bringing those plans forward and then seeing if Canadians are going to buy into them as well. So anyways, that video on the YouTube channel is going to be super interesting, but there's a lot going on this year. There's a lot of variables to consider. And, I think what we can do is we can really wrap up saying if people want their own personal advice tailored to them, they know how to get us, right? Every situation is different. Explain to people what micro markets are.
Micro markets. That's a good one. Do you want to remind me?
Yeah, well, no problem. Well, micro market is like, it's saying like Fraser Valley house prices are up 1%.
Yeah.
I don't own a Fraser Valley house. I own a detached home
in
South Surrey.
Exactly.
In the King George corridor. That's a micro market, right?
That's right.
So it's very specific in terms of, the location and what type of product you got. You don't want to paint all houses with the same brush. So be careful of all the things you're going to hear on the news, good or bad, because it doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to your own personal situation. So anyways, if anybody needs any advice or anything like that, they can reach out.
Sub areas, or as we like to call it, sub areas.
Yeah, I used a fancy one.
Yeah, you did. So sub areas too, exactly. We could say something that's insane going on in the Lower Mainland. Well, how big is that Lower Mainland? That's
right.
that's entire. It could be the entire Greater Vancouver area. It could be the Fraser Valley. A lot of things. So exactly, it's tailored to your sub area within an area within effectively a board or an area as well. So there's a lot of nuances there. So please reach out if you have any questions. Everything is not painted all with the same brush.
Yeah, you got it. So don't forget to let us know if you need us to look at your assessment. We're happy to do that. If you are listening on the podcast, thank you for subscribing, checking out it. If you're not, make sure you check out the podcast, because if you don't have the time to watch these videos in their full length, then you got a podcast that you can now check out. We're posting a lot of our content on there now as well. And other than that, we'll look forward to hearing anybody if they've got any plans and they want help kind of making their plans come to fruition, or at least getting themselves set on the right path.
That's it.
We're here for advice.
That's it, man.
All right, man. Well, let's look forward to a good 2025.
You too.
Cheers. See you on the next one.
Later.
January 6th of 2025 started off like any other normal day at the beginning of the year until this happened.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.